Welcome to the Capital Exchange. I'm Steve Wilbur, Managing Director at Allen Capital Group.
And I'm Travis Portwood, Chief Investment Officer with Allen Capital Group.
Travis, we're approaching the end of the year, and there's a window that's closing regarding the CARES Act. It's a benefit where people can take money from a qualified account and not have to pay the 10% penalty if they're under the age of 59 and a half.
Right, and just to be clear, Steve, we're talking about emergency type of situations here. We don't want to take money from a retirement account unnecessarily, because then we interrupt compounding. You want to let compounding work its magic as long as possible. So the withdrawal we're talking about from qualified accounts, which could be an IRA or it could be an employer-sponsored plan, normally if you take a withdrawal from those accounts prior to age 59 and a half, you have to pay the income tax and you have to pay that 10% penalty you were talking about. Well, under the CARES Act, you do not have to pay the 10% penalty. Additionally, that income tax, you can spread the income amongst the next 3 years, which then spreads the income tax liability over the next 3 years. If you do have the opportunity to pay back that money you withdrew from the accounts within a 3-year time frame, then you won't have to pay the income tax at all. You just have to refile the tax returns.
And that's any part of it, right? You don't have to pay it all back. You can pay any part of what you took out.
Any part, even if you can pay a portion back, you can reduce the income tax liability. And it's important that each individual has access to $100,000.
Yeah, so that's if a married couple, you'd have $200,000 then. Is that right?
Access to $200,000. Again, in case of emergency. So, we can take these withdrawals, but you do have to qualify. So let's next talk about, who qualifies to be able to take these special withdrawals.
Yeah, and the first one that everybody can probably assume is if you were diagnosed with COVID-19.
Which is a lot of people.
Yeah, and then you have a spouse or a child that would diagnose. Anyone in your household diagnosed with COVID-19, you qualify. If you experienced adverse financial consequences by not being able to work because you were quarantined for a period of time through reverse tracing, being furloughed, being laid off, working reduced hours, unable to potentially take your child to daycare because the daycare closed because of a COVID outbreak, or if you owned a business where they had to shut the doors for a period of time, or possibly just having reduced work hours because of COVID. And then the last one that needs an asterisk because it is very broad is whatever the IRS determines later at a later date or approves at a later date that would meet their criteria.
Yeah, and the list you just laid out covers a lot of ground, and the IRS is constantly being petitioned for new qualifications to be able to take these withdrawals. It's very clear that the government understands that many people are going to be affected by COVID-19, and they wanted to make this law as broad as possible so people had access to money if they needed it in case of emergency. It's also important to point out that Congress continues to debate additional fiscal relief packages. They could extend the benefits we talked about here today, or they could add on to these benefits. We maybe get a package by the end of the year. It might go into next year. We don't know how that's going to turn out. But if something does materialize, we'll make sure to inform clients accordingly.
Yeah, it's stay tuned for further information, and we have to assume too that the House and the Senate can actually agree on something.
It seems extremely difficult for that to happen right now.
So. Yeah, it's been a struggle. Travis, this has been great. I look forward to it next week.
I look forward to it as well.
If you'd like to learn more and how you might qualify for the CARES Act withdrawals, our contact information is below, and we look forward to hearing from you.